watching over me like no one else could do.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Please, am I audible? If you can hear me, kindly send a reaction in the chat. Okay, thank you. Good evening once again. You're welcome to today's Leadership in Africa Forum, sponsored by Temple Advisory and in collaboration with the Central Leadership Program. Today, I am hosting you. I'm Nikensenyo Agbenoyebi. I'm a fellow of the Central Leadership Program, and I'm a software developer by trade. I'm hosting with fellow Beryl Abuaje, and we would be your host for today. So before we begin, I'd like to start with the opening prayer. I'd like to invite fellow Nana Kwabna to give us the opening prayer. Fellow Nana Kwabna, please can you hear me? Okay, if he is not available, I'll kindly start. Heavenly Father, we thank you for today. We thank you for such an amazing session. We ask that even as we are about to begin, we pray that this session will bring light and understanding to each and every one of us. In the name of Jesus, we pray thanksgiving. Amen. Okay.
Amen.
So, thank you. And so, before we begin, I'd like to give a brief intro on what the Central Leadership Program is. And so the Central Leadership Program, also known as CLP, is a one-year leadership development journey for young Ghanaians between the ages of 18 and 25, whose mission is to raise Christ-centered leaders who will transform society through integrity, service, and purposeful influence. And so I, as a member of CLP, is encouraging anyone who has a desire to lead not just others, but also yourself. And you want to understand how to make a meaningful impact in society through Christ, should be interested in joining the Central Leadership Program, because I believe that's the best place to start. And so before we begin, I'd quickly like to ask a simple question, and you could kindly reply in the chat, or if you want to speak, you can raise your hand with the raise hand feature. My question is, describe the state of leadership in Ghana or in Africa as a whole in one word. If you could describe it, please put that word in the chat. Any word that comes to mind, the first word that comes to mind. Chaotic. Okay, from Zenas Fiagbe. He said chaotic. And okay, I think it's something we can relate to. Intervention. Okay, by justice. Intervention. What does that even mean? Yes, we'll discuss this. I think this will be very, very interesting. Evolving. Okay. Evolving from one phase to the other. Is it better to worse? Okay, if one word is not enough, you could put in a phrase. Feel free to do that. Yeah, if one word is not enough and you feel a phrase will do justice, yes, please feel free to do that. Okay, I think there are no more comments in the chat. Please, is there anyone who would like to speak and say what they believe is the state of leadership in Ghana? Okay, if there's no one. Okay, so from Zenas, I think leadership in Africa has been a roller coaster in the last few years. Okay, Zenas would like to speak. Okay, so yes, Zenas, please, you can unmute and speak.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Good evening.
Good evening.
I believe I'm audible.
Yes,
Yes,
please,
you're
we can
audible.
hear you.
All right, perfect. So, yes, so I was saying that I honestly don't think one word would be enough to describe the state of leadership in Ghana, let alone Africa, because it's been a roller coaster in the last 20 to 25 years. I know that it hasn't been perfect. Um, it hasn't been that horrible on the other side. That's what I'm saying, is a roller coaster. So it's more or less like we've had our highs and we've had our lows. Although we are not really at the best of time, it's still at an appreciable level. It could be better, but is not so good. And then so when you look at it too, it's impossible to put all countries on on the same scale, because you realize that leadership in different specific African countries are on different levels. Some are better than the others, some are really rock bottom, and then some are really at the very high pedestal.
Okay,
Those are my initial comments.
thank you for that, Zenas. Okay, so moving on, we'll go straight into the session. I'll invite fellow Beryl Abuaji to start this session. Thank you.
Thank you, Nikin, for that introduction. And I'm already poised for tonight's session. From the comments so far, it's like we're going to have a very good discussion, and I can't wait for that. Thank you, everyone, for joining in tonight. We are very honored to have you here. Yeah, so my expectations are that at the end of the session, we'll all have a better mindset about leadership in Africa, mindset about what is leadership in Africa should have shifted by the end of the session. And I'm so glad that we can share this platform with youth like us. So, like he said, this session is powered by the Temple Advisory and the Central Leadership Program, of which we are fellows of the 7th cohort. We'll talk about the Central Leadership Program as time goes on. So I want us to have a discussion on the topic building, not blaming, the mindset for a better Africa. Building, not blaming, the mindset for a better Africa. Today, our discussion is going to revolve around this mindset, whether we have a building mindset or a blaming mindset. So I'd like us to first do something. I'd like us to, if you could speak or if you could type in the chat box, good leaders in Africa, any good leader, any leader in Africa you would consider as very good. Can you type in the chat box? Or you could raise your hand to speak. Any good leader an African leader who you consider as very good. Anybody? Someone says John Mahama. We have Dr. Mensa Otabil. Could I clarify the good? So good is relative. It depends on you. So that is why I'm asking the question. Who would you consider as a good leader? Who would you consider as a good leader? Maybe you can write the person's name and let us know why you'd consider the person as a good leader.
I think we have a hand raised up. Gideon.
Okay. So he could unmute
Yeah,
and speak,
Gideon, please,
please.
you can unmute and speak.
Someone I consider a good leader is Dr. Kwame Nkrumah.
Okay, do you have
Okay.
any
Do I need
reasons
to
why?
state?
Oh,
Yes.
you can.
So I see Nkrumah as a good leader because so far, for me, he's the only African leader who was selfless enough to build systems outside himself. He didn't build himself into the systems for self-aggrandizement, or he didn't want to be like what we are experiencing now, whereby even if somebody builds a hospital, they commission it with their names on it. Nkrumah didn't do any of those. He had a vision for the country, and not just Ghana. He had a vision for the entire Africa, and
Okay.
he actually started implementing that vision in Ghana. And to me, because of that selflessness, that's what makes him a good leader for me.
Okay.
Okay,
So what
thank
I
you.
get from what you just said is that he was selfless, so you consider him a good leader. That's great. I think if can anyone else speak? Justice, could you clarify why you choose John Mahama as a good leader? If you could unmute and speak, we'll be very grateful.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
I will say the reason why I'm considering John Mahama is we can see progressive change happening
Okay.
in the country is close to us. So once we can see that where we were, we are not there, but there's a progressive agenda moving forward. It's a sign of a good leader. I mean, we are
Okay.
not there yet, but there's progress. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. We'll take the last one from Zainas. If you could explain why you choose Nelson Mandela or yeah. Zainas, if you could speak.
Okay, so I chose Nelson Mandela because he was very instrumental in ending the apartheid system in South Africa, and today he's recognized as one of Africa's great previous leaders. I mentioned Haile Selassie because he was also key in the formation of the Organization of African Union, which I'm sure we'll mention at a point. And then I added Paul Kagame because of we've all noticed how Rwanda has changed in the last 10 to 15 years after the genocide that happened and all that. So these are leaders I think are good.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. Now, I want us to notice a trend in the responses we've had so far. All of them stated that some impact was felt by the citizens, or the leaders left a certain impact after their leadership, and that is why they considered them as good leaders. Now, I want us to take time to think about what we used to hear back in JHS. We used to hear our teachers say that we are the future leaders of the country. We are the future leaders of the country. I'm not so old, but I have been hearing that since I was in school, that I'm going to be the future leader of the country, which means that at a certain point, I'm supposed to be the leader of the country, because it will get to a point where the names you've mentioned right now, we have Kwame Nkrumah, who is not alive. We don't have Nelson Mandela alive. But when we think about good leaders in Africa right now, we go back into past glory. We go back to reference Nkrumah from so many years ago. We go back to mention Haile Selassie from so many years ago. How many good leaders are currently in our generation? How many good leaders are the future leaders that were talked about some years ago? That is the reason why we have to have this discussion. Now, I'd like to read some statistics. For most of us who don't know, Africa is a very massive continent, and then Africa's size is much bigger than most of us have been previewed to. So maps have lied to us continuously. I'm not sure most of us know that the United States as a continent could be fit into Africa about 3 times. If you knew about this, kindly react with a thumbs up. If you knew that the United States could be fit into Africa 3 times, kindly react with a thumbs up. If you didn't, send another emoji. So the United States could be fit into Africa about 3 times, but we've been restricted to think that Africa is smaller than we know. Also, so even if you take, let's say, the United States, Europe, Asia, China, all these parts could fit in Africa. But what does it mean to us as Africans? Because our continent is so huge, but we have nothing to show for it. Now, I want us to know that aside the land size issues with Africa, Africa is the continent with the youngest population. About 60% of Africans are youth. About 60% of Africans are youth. That is people who fall under 34 years. 60% of us are youth. What does that mean to us? That is, if you take a huge number of Africans, you can pick about 1 out of 4 people who are Africans that are youth. This is to tell us that there's going to be a point where the older generation would fade away if they haven't already started fading away. You hear a lot of people die and all of that, but 60% of Africans are youth. Is there going to be a point where we would be able to handle Africa and then the generation after us can make reference to us as good leaders? That is the whole point of today's discussion, because history is good. History is good, but how long are we going to live in past glory? Now, we've done some examination and realized that there's a particular mindset that is holding Africans back. So I have a stand, and my stand is that Africa becomes better when I become better. Africa becomes better when you, Nana Kwabena, becomes better, or you, OBJ, becomes better. And I want to know your thoughts on it. Do you think that Africa becomes better when you as an individual becomes better, or Africa becomes better when our leaders become better, when something happens? What's your take on it? Do you agree with my stand that Africa becomes better when you as an individual becomes better? I would like to hear your thoughts on this. If anyone would want to speak, you can raise your hand.
Okay, so we have Justice first, then Gideon.
Okay.
I thank you for the opportunity to speak. I strongly support the notion that Africa becomes better when you become better. And it's high time we are able to decentralize power. People believe that leaders, as in the people in power, presidents and other people in cabinet, are the focal point of power. It's very true, but we have to get to a state where we can decentralize power, and that is based on when we also empower ourselves. Now I'm going to talk a bit technical and extensive a bit. So when you study the government system, you realize that the government has a lot of pressure on itself to produce results for the country or a country in Africa specifically. There's always a budget being rolled out, and government is mandated to meet those needs of the people. However, it is highly impossible to meet all the needs of people. Therefore, the government then entrusts people in power to be able to manage various regions and local government centers in building the nation. What happens? People rather appoint their own family members, as we see in Tanzania, where the president Samia Suluhu has appointed her daughter as the Minister of Education and her son-in-law as Minister of Education. We are seeing that people are putting family members in the position where trusted individuals like you and I must hold and will be able to deliver. When such people are placed in authority, what happens is that they are unskilled people placed in the place where they need to deliver. Then there will be mismanagement of funds, and they will not be able to meet KPIs. Then if someone is in a position where they are holding power but they don't know how to use the power, there's a room for embezzlement of funds. So a good president or a good leader with high demand from the people is not able to deliver because that people who are mandated to deliver are not qualified and are not able to stand and deliver to the people. So then you see that a government or an African leader is good, but he's not doing well because the people who are supposed to support him are not building together. I'm not here to complain, but to also suggest a solution that we must be able to rise up as individuals and partner with government. Now, in 2015, the government in Ghana realized that our PPP contract, that is public-private partnership, was not lucrative enough for foreign investors to come in and partner with government. So then they made policies in place that allowed the venture to be very lucrative for other people to come and work with us. An example of foreign investors which we have is basically the MPS, which is the Mediterranean Port and Shipping. It's a foreign investor that has been leased to that people for a period of 35 years to handle. Well, there's development happening in the country of Ghana, and then there are progress happening. People are being employed. However, because we are seeing that foreign investors, in quotes, are people from other countries coming to take the position which individuals like you and I can develop ourselves to hold. They are taking the money out of the country to Europe, and then we are still being, our cedi is depreciating and our currency is reducing. That means you are not making much. But when we empower ourselves, example is Dr. Joseph Siao Ejapon, who is a Ghanaian entrepreneur who owns waste management companies, owns logistics companies, owns insurance companies, owns banking sectors, and own IT sectors. The money stays in the country. Another example is a man who I think is in partnership with Goa for an entrepreneur, a Ghanaian entrepreneur who owns fuel stations. When we are able to stand our place and develop ourselves to partner with government under the PPP, public-private partnership, we are able to release stress from the government and empower ourselves and our people. What that would mean for us is that, one, checks and balances would be very secure, because when you go under a PPP contract with the government, the private entity is responsible for designing, managing, operating, handing over, and renewal. That means that if you are working for a private company, that is you and I, we know in private institutions, they hire the people that are qualified to do the job. So if there is a contract or there's a tender agreement and government plays a tender agreement for construction of roads, and then you are build yourself in a capacity where you are able to take that contract, there is proper checks and balance, because the private institution will not allow you to mismanage funds. They would set up KPIs for you, key performance indicators for you to fulfill. They will make sure that you achieve your goal. If you're not achieving your goal, they'll sack you. But in other African countries, we have people that come in place and then they come and take contracts. Chinese come and then the roads are left unattended to halfway. They come and then they set up businesses, incomplete businesses. We are not building together. Halfway. But when we empower ourselves into a place where we can partner with government, then we are decentralizing the power that is enforced on government to meet the need of the people. We are decentralizing the power, becoming entrepreneurs. And then I am envisioning that everyone on this call will take up the entrepreneurial mindset, the leadership mindset, that I am building myself in a place where I can own companies to support the Ghana government, to support the African continent. Now you see that Africa has an agenda. Africa Agenda 2063. There's ECOWAS Agenda 2050. There's Ghana Agenda 2063. These things are laid down principles, but we don't follow through because we are not able to meet checks and balances. But when we empower ourselves as individuals and hold the position where we stand firm to partner with government, we can say that, oh, because the private institution is involved, we are able to mitigate the whole construction of projects and all that. Right now, we are looking at our sugar factory in Ghana right now. It's still under observation because they are not delivering, and it's left like that. We will start a project, we will not be able to complete it. Recently, that they are handing over an oil industry. Recently in the news, I think about a week ago, that foreign investors are handing over an oil company to Ghana now because we are not able to build our own staffs and then manage it ourselves. Foreigners have to come in and then take up all those and send the money away. I'd like to end here and not take much of the time and allow other people to also contribute to the subject. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
very much,
Justice.
Justice. Thank you very much. I think he has said a lot. Please, let's try and keep our submissions short and concise as possible. Thank you. Moving to Gideon.
Thanks, Nick. I think the person who made the point made a very, very good point earlier. But I always say that, let me start with a quote from Rollins. He says that we are supposed to move to a point where we are supposed to build systems whereby if the devil comes to rule us as president, he can't do anything and get away with it. I feel like in as much as you can rely on people, sweetheart, sorry to disappoint you, but people will be people. You can't fully rely on people. What you can rely on is systems to keep people in check. So I feel like what Africa lacks is systems, not people. Because at the end of the day, if we have systems that can put people in check, then we are good. I strongly agree with what you are saying, that for Africa to be great, we must be great. Because at the end of the day, the land will not tell itself. The land will not build itself. It's people, and people must build systems. A system that will live outside the people. That's one thing I always had. That's one problem I always had with the way Nkrumah set us up. In as much as he was great, he was a visionary. He built everything without a system. He built Valco. There was no system to regulate it. He built Tor. There was no system to regulate it. As of now, we still lack systems to regulate the few things that we have as Africans. And that's how come the white people can come in. When you go to the US, the power does not rest with the president alone, not because there are people who entrepreneur. It's because there are systems that keep those people in check. That is why iPhone will produce parts in China and come and assemble in the US, because he's trying to cut costs and reduce taxes. But in Ghana, there are few people who pay taxes and there is no system to check tax evaders. But there's a system to sentence someone for stealing cassava to 10 years. But there is no system to check the politician who was supposed to do something with public funds and couldn't do it. So what we lack are not the people. What we lack are the systems to put the people in check, because the people will die. The systems won't. And for we to be able to build systems, it starts with us. It starts with our mind and our heart. So if we are able to put systems in place to regulate Africa, the people will come and go, like he said. We that we are here today, if I develop myself to become better, the next person doesn't. At the end of the day, I'll die and the next person who will succeed me might not be able to do what I did. It's what we are facing right now. Ghana started well, but the person who started well with us is dead. And there was no system to be able to reproduce the same results he produced for us. That's why we are here. If there were systems, this Tanzanian president would have been checked by the system. He doesn't need people to check her. She doesn't need people to check her, sorry. So I feel like building system starts with us humans. It starts with our heart and our mindset. So instead of just building ourselves as people, I suggest that we build ourselves to be able to build systems that can outlive us. It's like being an entrepreneur and you are having a business and the business cannot function without you. You are just self-employed. You are not an entrepreneur. If you're able to build a system that outlives you, that is when we build something as Africans. That's what all the developed nations have done. They've built systems so that the systems know that the average citizen paying this amount of tax can earn this amount of money. Systems that can detect your basic wages. Systems that will make sure that we all have access to free and fair education. System that make sure that there is free drinking water. It doesn't matter who is the MP. It doesn't matter who is the assemblyman. It doesn't matter whether the person is, excuse my language, a dunderhead or the person is a visionary. The system will make sure we know where we are going. Because if you fully trust in people alone, people will always be people. People kill Jesus. At the end of the day, people will still go to church and worship Jesus. So that's how it works. So for me, yes, it starts with people, but I wish those people evolve to build systems. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gideon.
Thank you so much,
for that
Gideon.
submission. I think
Okay. So then I think I
that's all.
can proceed.
Yes, please.
All right. So thank you, Gideon and Justice, for your submissions. I think we are getting to the main points of today's discussion. So Gideon mentioned something that we need people We need systems. But the truth about the matter is that people are the ones going to build the systems. And then if the people do not have the right mindsets to build the systems, we'll keep going around in circles. Now, let's just take time to think about this. Some of us think that leadership is positional, but then I want to tell you that leadership is situational. A lot of us are expecting to be presidents, to be ministers, before we can bring up leadership roles. But leadership starts as individuals, as communities, before it comes to the national stage or even continental stage. A lot of us think that Africa is ruled by policies. Countries are ruled by policies, are ruled by systems, and are ruled by policies and systems. But it's people who make up the country, it's people who make up the continent. Even if the policies are there, but the people do not have the right mindset to follow the policies. I mean, we can make up laws and write it and put it into word, put it into papers. But if the president, who is supposed to be in charge of everything, is not even going according to those policies, nothing works for us. So that's why I want us to discuss the actual mindsets that we can develop as Africans to bring change into the country, because change starts with us. Leadership starts with us. Leadership is not positional. Leadership is situational. Some of us might have children. You are leaders to your children. You don't need to be a president. You don't need to be the owner of an institution to be called the leader of the institution. Now, I want us to think about the fact that some people say that Ghana needs foreign presidents. Ghana needs a foreign president to come to Ghana and change everything. If you get a foreign president coming to Ghana, things will be better. Other people argue also that if you have to take the whole of Ghana today to the United States and bring everyone from the United States to Ghana, Ghana right now would turn into the United States, and the United States would turn into Ghana back there. That's to tell you that the issue could be with us as individuals. Is it that we don't follow rules? Is it that we just don't care about certain things? And I think we focus too much on what is up there. Can we start from the bottom at least? Because we are the ones going to develop the country. We are supposed to be the future leaders of the country, future leaders of Africa. Let's just take let me use the Black Stars. It got to a point, sorry if it will sound way, but it got to a point where people were complaining that the Black Stars need a foreign coach. So we had to get a foreign coach to come and lead the Black Stars, in whatever way. But you realize that we were still getting the same results. The way Jordan Ayew will play his football is still the same way he was playing his football. And we go back to switching to an African coach, a whole back and forth. So if the people themselves are not changed, if the people themselves are not checked, whoever the leader is, the whole cycle could still repeat itself. And I've realized that one thing about Africans is that we complain too much. The system is not working. Yes, the system is not working. But what part can we play? So I want us to discuss a transformative way that we could all collectively bring change into Africa. Like I said, Africa becomes better when you as the individual becomes better. Becomes better. And I believe that if transformation begins with us as individuals, especially us as youth, like I said from statistics, 60% of Africans are youth. If every youth in Africa decides to do what is right in the smallest possible way, don't you think there will be a ripple effect? Let's consider the Kenyan, the Gen Zs, the people of Botswana. Once we are able to start change in the smallest possible way, it will have a ripple effect eventually. Now, when it comes to improving Africa, if I should go around the table and ask how we think Africa can be improved, a lot of us will give responses like better government, more foreign investments, infrastructure development. As for infrastructure development, we've been saying it since primary school. Lack of social amenities, poor infrastructure development. If we've been given those reasons since primary school, and then those reasons are still coming up, shouldn't we look at a whole different way to handle the entire issue? I think Africans complain too much. Yes, the system is not working. The system is not working. we look at the external factors, we look at the external factors, what can be done, what governments can do, If there's something happening in a village right now, and a journalist should go and report, Aban, Beyewe, Aban, come and do this. What can you do as individuals? I mean, the system is not working, but if we begin to do something as individuals, it will have a ripple effect. And my focus is that we as the youth are going to lead the country in the future. If we complain right now, when we get into those spots, what are we going to do? Let's look at even students leaders like the SRC presidents and those people in universities. You realize that when someone is going to campaign to be an SRC president, he talks about, and they don't do this. When we come, we'll do this. They don't do this. When we come, we'll do this. But when they get into the position, they've eaten the national cake so much that they can't talk again. And I believe that is because we've reduced ourselves to blaming people. We've reduced ourselves to complaining and not fixing anything. So if I'm vying for an SRC position, I'll consistently blame whoever is in power currently. But when I get into that position, I can't blame myself. So then I go mute. And it's because I'm enjoying the national cake. So who am I going to blame at this point? You go mute and you can't talk about anything again. So I think it's time we shift. How long are we going to blame slavery? How long are we going to blame past presidents? How long are we going to blame? What future are we building for ourselves? If the generation after us comes, what are they going to know us for? Are they still going to reference Nkrumah and Nelson Mandela as good presidents? Are they someday going to mention Beryl was a good leader, Nana Kwabena is a good leader, Beloved is a good leader? Who are they going to reference as good leaders? We've reduced ourselves so much to blaming past presidents, blaming the systems. I think it's time we work on ourselves as individuals, and it will have a ripple effect in the system. So that is where our discussion is starting from. Because if you are to talk about what Africa can do to make Africa better, nobody will mention, oh, I can fix the road, or I can ensure that the community is clean. Everybody wants free cake because it's not my problem. The governments will come and solve it. But leadership isn't positional. Leadership is situational. Now let's look at this. So today, by the end of the discussion, I want us to analyze ourselves and know if we're actually blamers or builders, and develop an actual mindset that can build Africa. Because transformation should start at every level. Transformation shouldn't just start at the top. It could start at the bottom upwards. And then I think it's time we take ownership of certain things that are going on in Africa. I want us to tackle the African mindset. Mindset is essential because mindset is what guides our behaviors. Mindset is what guides our behaviors. Because of the environments most of us grew in as Africans, we've grown up to inculcate certain habits, certain cultures that we don't even know we have. The mindsets that we grew up as Africans has shaped our behaviors. It has shaped how we think. It has shaped how we see responsibility. It has shaped our ethics. And I think that is the basis of Africa's issues today. Our mindset is so flawed because we have certain things we don't want to take responsibility of certain things because somebody was put in that position, so the person should be the one responsible for it. So there are two parts of mindsets. Would have people being blamers and people being builders. So to differentiate, you have a blamer saying the government is the reason why this is happening, but the builder would say that I can influence something right now. What can I do about the situation? A blamer would say that for a blamer, there will always be an excuse for something. He's probably waiting for the government to change this. He's waiting for something to change before he can take an initiative. But the builder takes the initiative right from the start. I mean, we live in areas where there's so much rubbish. Where I live, there's a lot of rubbish. And the gases are choked consistently. There's flooding. But we are waiting for the government to come and fix something. Who in the end suffers? We suffer. Fine, the government has responsibilities they are supposed to take. The government is supposed to help with our drainage systems. But what part can we do about it? I mean, when it's raining, a lot of us go and throw rubbish into the gutter so that the rain will take the water away. In the end, it gets flooded and we complain. So I want us to know that the blaming mindset is something that has been instilled in us since we grew up. We might not even realize it. Nobody is ready to take fault for what has been done. Everybody is looking for who is at fault. It was never me. But I want us to shift to a mindset where we focus on solutions, where we focus on action. What can be done about it? Fine, it's not my responsibility, but in my smallest possible way, what can I do about it? And I want us to think about this question, that what mindsets do we see most in our community? What mindset do you embody in your daily activities? Do you think you're a blamer or do you think you're a builder? And why do you think you're a blamer? Do you think you should shift to being a builder? Do you think if Africa shifts our mindset from being blamers, if the youth of Africa shifts our mindset from being blamers to actually building things? So when I say building things, I'm not mean going to construct a building, but building systems that actually work in our own smallest possible way, things will get better. I'd like to hear your thoughts on this. Do you think we are actually blamers as Africans? And do you think we should shift our mindsets to being builders? Any thoughts on this? Anybody?
Can you please take the question again?
Okay. So I'm asking that what kind of mindset do you think Africans embody? Do you think we are blamers or do you think we are builders? By African youth, do you think we are blamers or do you think we are builders? Do you think we complain about a lot of things? We wait for government to fix a lot of things. We are focusing on who is at fault rather than building stuff, thinking of what we can influence, what we can initiate in our own smallest possible way. That's the question.
I think we have fellow Nana Kwabna.
Okay.
I think you can go ahead. Please be as precise as possible. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, fellow Niken, and thank you, fellow Barrow. So I'd say that in general, we don't really have statistics to support and say that Africans are more blamers than builders or the vice versa. So I'm speaking based on observation, and what I've seen around is that many times we are always trying to look for who to take the blame. And we've seen these things even in our government spaces where I'm going to use your example for context sake about the Black Stars, for example, where every time we lose a match or something of that sort, we come back. Everyone within that space, the GFA, Ghana Association of what, everyone is looking for someone to blame. People are saying it's the coach, someone is saying it's the player, someone is saying the money didn't get to them on time, they didn't get their bonuses. So from the observations we get from all these things, we realize that we are more of blamers. We are looking for who to shift the blame to so that we can look clean, who to find fault with so that we look like those who put in the hard work. And so there's little to no building mindset in many of us. And I think that's been a problem, even from our schools. In school, we are taught to I won't say we are taught directly, but there's a subtle way of teaching us to look for who we can blame. Were you the one talking? You see everyone pointing fingers. No, I wasn't talking. So, the concept of blamers or builders in the African context is a very hardcore. And from my observation, I'm saying again, this is my observation. I've not seen any statistics or data that shows that Africans are more of blamers than builders. So from my observation, I think we are more of blamers, and it's high time we change that narrative to become builders. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much.
We have Gideon.
Okay.
I think that I will classify most of young Africans as blamers. I don't blame most people because, like I said, they've never worked in their shoes. But I feel like how we are programmed from the onset in social studies, like you are saying, when there is a question about something that demands social responsibility, the first four core points we write are all lack of. It's either lack of this or lack of that.
Lack of
And you get
social amenities.
Lack of social
yes,
amenities. Yeah.
yes, lack of infrastructure, lack of good roads,
Yeah.
lack of. So that system sort of builds this level of reliance on external factors instead of internal factors. Do you understand? So that's
Yeah.
how we've been programmed. So we were programmed with that. That's how we grew up. So our freedom of speech is used for demonstration. So I feel like it's the programming. So most of us are taught to demand or request or expect. We have this sense of entitlement. Oh, we have gold, then Ghana is supposed to be better. Oh, we have diamond. Look at everything that we have. Since we have all these things, if the government comes in power and the city is not stable, then the government is bad. But imagine a country where you live in where the black market control about 70% of the circulation of the dollar. You expect the city to be stable? No. So that's we are trained to rely on government, and government is supposed to build these systems. That's why I'm saying that. That's why when Ghanaians go to a place whereby they can count on systems, they are able to make money. Okwe now a double shifter. When the person does 2 shifts in the US, 3 shifts in the US, and the minimum wage is even what the person is earning, the person is able to save up because we are taught to rely on. So we just need something we can rely on. We don't have that in Africa, in as much as we are taught to rely on. So
Yeah.
since we are taught to rely on, we are supposed to be able, we are taught to rely on. There's nothing to rely on over here. So we have to shift that mindset to build this. We have to build the systems before we can rely on something. But we are trained to rely on. That's why we blame every time. A Ghanaian person would throw rubbish into the gutter and expect that when it rains, there will be no flood. There is no waste collection point in their neighborhood. The Ghanaian is expecting a waste collection point before he or she finds proper ways of dumping refuse. Can you imagine? That's how we are programmed as Ghanaians. Thank you.
Thank you
you very
for your
much.
submission.
Okay, so I think we have 2 chats. I'll read them out. Nicole says, yeah, we are mostly blamers, but this is because the system sometimes frustrates those who want to build. And then Justice says, I think we are blamers because we feel like there can be a solution and it is not being employed. People talk about the problem and few work the problem. And then we have someone saying, testimony saying, isn't that more of irresponsibility? No one wants to be responsible.
True.
So thank you very much for
I
your
think we have
submissions.
OBJ. Yes,
Okay.
please. I would love to hear from OBJ.
All right.
Good evening, everyone. Good
Good
evening.
evening.
And first of all, I'm learning a lot, but I'm starting to feel a lot more like a blamer. And help me because let's see, I wake up, I sit in traffic for 2 hours to work. I sit in traffic 2 hours back. And then at the end of the month, I see that the government, whatever that is, takes 20% of nearly 20% of my income in various forms of taxes. And yet I still see that the roads are bad, things are congested, and it's not working. And then let's see, a friend of mine who was also in the same condition, in the same areas that are choked and all, Japan goes to a system that has these things working, and they comply, they thrive, and they win like best employee award and all of that. And I'm thinking, so it means that at an individual level, right? Because he was in the right system, he's able to contribute more. So is it then really about me or is it about the system? How do I marry these two ideas without being a blamer? Because I want to be a builder, but it's like the system is fashioned to kill out my initiative. And there are people who have come before me who have been preaching these things and have died and gone. Really, is there hope? Or I should just go and do my passport? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, OBG, for the question.
Brilliant submission. I think, what do you do when the system is fighting you? Yes.
Okay. Do we have anyone who would want to say anything on this question? On the question that has been asked?
I think Gideon's hand is raised.
All right.
Yeah,
So
please.
Gideon, let's hear
Please
you.
be precise. Thank you.
I will. You see, when the system is fighting you, I said the system is fighting you. Um, one thing is, if you want to be extraordinary, you can't do ordinary things. If you want to live an average life, remember when in my submission earlier, I said that the system is built for average people in such a way that the average person can live comfortably. Now, the Ghanaian who goes outside and wins Best Employee Award wants to live averagely, and there are systems that guide the person's processes and thoughts. Human beings are supposed to be autonomous, but because of how you are brought up, most of the time you are at fault, or you fault in one way or the other when you try to be autonomous. That is why you need systems to guide you. So in Ghana, whereby the systems are not there to guide you, you have to shift from being the kind of person that relies on these systems to being a builder to do extraordinary things. Else, I suggest you do your passport. That is if you want to rely on the system solely, like you are saying, like you want to wait for there to be a waste collection point before you dump refuse, because that system is there should be a waste collection point for me to take my rubbish over there, right? But you come from a country where that is not easily available to everybody. You come from a country where people don't have access to clean drinking water. Does that mean that you go to pee in the river that supplies the entire community? No. So if you want a place where systems is the only thing you need to function, I suggest you do your passport. But if you want to be here to make Africa a better place, then I suggest you shift from there and in your own small world or in your own small way, start thinking of how to think without a system. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
I
very
think
much.
OBJ has a counter submission to this.
Oh, not really. I just want to confirm if so. What we are agreeing on this call is that I do not have the luxury of living a regular life because of no fault of mine and because of the system I've been born into. A lot more is required of me
Yeah.
per hour than someone else who happens to have a different passport. Is that it?
I
Okay.
think, let me say this, per your reality, sir, you are not entitled to some things. Per your reality, you are not entitled to some things. Let me share an experience I had. It's going to be very concise. I was in Cairo last month, and before I entered Cairo, I didn't do a visa, so I was transiting through Cairo. Do you know that when I got there, I was going with an American. When I got there, they were able to give the American visa upon arrival. An American. But me as an African, I didn't qualify for visa upon arrival. So I had to stay in the airport and use a hotel inside the airport. I couldn't leave the airport. But the American qualified for visa on arrival. Why? Okita American passports. So per your reality, sir, you don't have the luxury of some things. Cairo is in Egypt, please. Cairo is the capital of Egypt. So per your reality, you are not entitled to some things. Americans have free 3 months stay in Dubai. You are Ghanaian, you are not qualified for that. So per your reality as a Ghanaian, you don't have the luxury to live a certain lifestyle. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think
Very much.
I'll proceed and then we'll
Yeah.
have some questions following
After.
up.
So
I
please
think
keep
we can.
questions and submissions. We'll have a session for that. Thank you.
Yeah, we can hold thought on that. I want us to watch this video and then we proceed with the discussion. It was a video we saw today on Sika Official's Twitter page. So you could watch it and then we'll discuss this.
Do you need help? What did she say? She went to get water. Hey, can we get out? Let's have a look. How many years have you been collecting this water from that stream? 2 years. Can you show me? Why don't you use like the hand pump in the village? It's broken. It's broken. Can you show me where the well is? They're going to go chicken. All right. I don't want you drinking this water. So bad. So bad. We've got a very serious problem. Come on, people. It's a plunger. So this is the problem. Yeah, the new plunger. All fat rack. Let's see. Okay. Whoa! Woo! Fresh water. Yeah. Back. Hey, stop.
Thank you all. So this is a video of an actual situation in Ghana. So you hear people speaking Chi in the video. Now it's a situation where the people were drinking from a pond or whatever we call that, dirty water. People were using that to bath, to drink, everything, whilst they had a well in the community. The only thing that the only issue was that the plunger of the well was broken. And all it took was for a white man to realize that there's a well, but we could fix something about it. And then that was fixed in an hour and 45 minutes. That's how serious the situation is. That's how serious our mindset has been developed as Africans. Fine, let's just say an NGO established that will, or whether a government official ensured that that well was constructed. But when an issue happened and then they couldn't drink from the well again, it had to take a white man's initiative, a white man's idea of trying to build something to getting the well fixed. So if the white man didn't even think of building that, or think of fixing the actual issue, they would have continued drinking from the pond. So we can't sit here and say that people passed and didn't see the well. People passed and didn't realize that there was something with the well. But fine, there's something wrong with the well. Let's forget about that. And then let's go and look for another. We don't want to fix this. So then let's go and look for another alternative. And the best alternative they could find was to go and drink from a dirty pond. That is the seriousness of the issue here in Africa. Even if things are constructed, even if we have systems in place, even if we have infrastructure in place, the people themselves are not thinking of building stuff. We are always looking for excuses. I mean, if it's broken, it's not my problem. If the government doesn't fix it, that's not my problem. If there's an issue with this system, it's not my problem. Once it's not affecting me, then fine. Even if it's affecting you, you don't care because somebody else hasn't come to fix the situation. Now we are going to be youth, we are going to be leaders of the country, even if we've not already been leaders. Like I said in my earlier submission, 60% of Africans are youth. 60% of Africans are youth. We've established the fact that a lot of us have that blaming mindset because we are waiting for people to do something for us to enjoy from it. Just like the video, if the white man didn't come and fix it, they would have continued living without the will. Are we going to sit and wait for whoever is going to lead us to correct systems? When we become leaders, who are we going to call to correct the systems? Because right now we've been blaming people, and it becomes a habit. When we get into leadership positions, when I become the president, who am I going to blame now? Nana Kwabena. I'm not going to blame him. Now, we've been calling the generation before us a failed generation. We've been calling them a failed generation. These people didn't fix this. They didn't do this. They didn't put systems in place. What is the generation after us going to call us? Are they also going to call us a failed generation? Or are we going to start everything from scratch and fix what has to be fixed? It's enough with the politics, and then when this country comes, when this party comes, he comes to fix this and halts it. When another party comes into power, he comes to fix it. We are the ones suffering. So what difference are we going to make as youth? That is why I'm introducing the blaming mindset. And then transformation doesn't happen by accident. The cycle of bad leadership is not going to end by us complaining. The cycle of bad leadership is not going to end by us complaining. It's going to end by us as African youth deciding we are going to break that cycle. How are we going to break the cycle? By building everything from scratch. Like I said, leadership isn't positional. Leadership is situational. What can you do on your part as an African youth? What can you correct? What can you implement? And then I think the issue of our mindset, the most part at which we blame is our responsibility mindset and our ethical mindset. That's the only way we can have a better Africa, if we check or try to work on these mindsets of us. For the responsibility mindset, a lot of us think nothing is our problem. Once it's not affecting me, I'm not the one going to fix it. If the government doesn't come to fix it, then we are going to suffer that way. For the ethical mindset, okay, let me focus on the building minds, the responsibility mindset, sorry. So if the government doesn't come to fix the situation, I'm not going to do anything about it. It's time we take ownership of certain things. We don't need to be in high positions before we can implement effective change. What can we do as Africans? What can we do to make the continent better? It just starts from us volunteering in small spaces, from us keeping our surroundings clean, because we are waiting for the government to come and fix our surroundings, to come and clean our surroundings when we are the ones making it dirty. It's also up to us. It's our responsibility to respect the systems that are in place. Fine, we don't have good systems. We agree with the fact that we don't have good systems. But with the systems that are even in place, how many of us respect those systems? It's our responsibility as citizens, it's our responsibility as youth of Africa to respect the existing systems and make implementation measures to it. If we are not respecting the systems, we go around in circles of bad leadership. I mean, we have the motorway. People are not supposed to use, how do we call those small cars? Abobo ears on the motorways. But we see people doing that. If there should be an accident today, it is because the motorway hasn't been tarred. Yes, the motorway hasn't been tarred, but your responsibility as a citizen was to ensure that you don't use that vehicle on the motorway. We are supposed to lead in our small spaces. As an individual, what change can you bring in your community? What measures are you putting in place to ensure that people are following the systems that are already in place? It's a very simple thing to do, to lead change in our small spaces. But we are all waiting for big positions before we can lead change, when we can start change in smaller spaces. I don't know if anybody has anything to say about this responsibility mindset, because I think that is weakening a lot of our systems in Ghana. A lot of our systems in Ghana are weakened because Ghanaians don't want to take responsibility for anything. We are not the ones to be blamed for anything. Even if systems have been put in place, we are not ready to follow those systems. When we become the leaders, the positional leaders of Ghana, how are we going to ensure that systems are now being followed? Because it's going to continue. The cycle is going to continue where people don't respect the systems. I'd like to hear your thoughts on it. Okay, first, let's answer this question. If anyone has anything to say about this question, what truly stops Africans from taking ownership of small everyday actions? Is it that we are simply lazy? Is it that they are cultural failures? Is it that there's lack of visible role models? Or is it that we just don't want to follow the system? Because even if there are systems, people don't want to follow the system. What is the actual issue? What is wrong with our mindsets? Where should we start the fix? That's the question for discussion right now. Any thoughts on this?
Okay, so we have a submission from Justice and then Gideon.
All right.
So, Beryl, just watching this video, it saddens me because people also pass by the same water pump and then they wished they could have helped by solving the problem. But they didn't have maybe the money to call that plumber to come in or that professional to come and fix the well for them. Maybe after the white man contacted that guy, he gave him some money when he fixed it for them to use. But ask if maybe the guy can also fix it for free. I feel like if he is supposed to fix it for free too, it's his profession, he has to also eat from it. So then again, it brings my mind to who built the pump at the first place. So who built it at the first place? The person who built it at the first place, did he put a maintenance culture against it? Was there someone put in charge to make sure that this is functioning? Now, if you're talking about personal responsibility, I tell you, people have the desire to personally take on certain projects like community interventions. The very common one which we see, that people will gather in a community and then they'll rally themselves and go and clean gutters. They'll clean the gutter the first week. Then just 3 days, the gutter is full again with rubbish. So I'm taking a personal responsibility and personal initiative that I will make sure that this area is clean. But as I am trying to make sure that the area is clean, the same people in the environment are also dumping the waste back into the place. So someone who has even the mindset to help will be like, even if I help, they'll still do it again. So why should I help in the first place? Why should I help? Because our mindset has not even been changed that when we are, people are taking the initiative to be responsible, there is no rewarding factor or any mindset that says that there's been an effort to clean this place. Let's not litter this place. So I think, in my own opinion, why people would desist from taking personal responsibilities, because sometimes the few good people which we have, when they take the initiative and the opportunity to do good things, excuse me to say in quote, the people in a society do not appreciate it or they don't take the value in what they've done, and then they go back to make the same mistake. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we'll take one from Gideon.
It's one from Gideon, and then I think we would read the rest in the chat. Okay,
All
Gideon.
right.
All right, Beryl. All right, Beryl. Thank you very much. Like he was saying, there are a lot of people who pass by the borehole. They wish they could have fixed it. But the truth is, we are built not to take responsibility as Ghanaians. We have too much entitlement. Like I said, when we are growing up, we are taught that Ghana has 9 to 11 resources. Because of that, we have this sense of I voted for you. We probably they were there thinking say MP in the West way the moment. Even if the professional was living in the community, like he said, it's his job, he must eat from it. Maybe the professional too could have done it for free because he lives in that community as well. But who knows? I saw the video earlier on Snapchat and somebody commented, maybe professional, the person has clean water in his house, so he doesn't care. But you see that thing, it took the effort of someone. How much would fixing this cost? This thing, DCE go feed sorry, the pigeon is coming. This thing, DCE can do. The chief could have done it. Any other person could have done it. Do you understand? But all of a sudden, we had to wait for a white man to come and do this just for access to pure drinking water. How shameful is it? Like he said, somebody built it. What is the maintenance culture around it? Like Ghanaians will clean gutters today to be full tomorrow. Why? It's the people. There are no systems to check the people. If you leave Ghanaians to be Ghanaians, we can't live in this country. That is all. The policeman taking bribe on motorway has nobody come. There is nothing supervising him. So he thinks he can do anything and get away with it. So that's it. Ghanaians are programmed to be entitled. Ghanaians are programmed to rely on. That is why the young average Ghanaian will feel like, okay, this example might stir up a couple of controversies. If not, I would have used this example whereby a young girl whose father, Sebe, does not have an iPhone is expecting a 23-year-old to get him 17 Pro Max. We are built to rely on things.
We beg, we beg.
That's why I didn't want to use the example. You see, we are built to rely on. We are built to expect. We are built to be entitled as Ghanaians. That is how it is. So at the end of the day, the Ghanaian expects, and since you didn't give me a place to dump the rubbish, then when I dump it in the gutter, then there should be a cleanup exercise to clear it from the gutter. That is how Ghanaians think. That is how we think. So to be able to do this, we have to start working on our mindset as Ghanaians. And as young people, we have to start with ourselves, and probably we can impact other people. But naturally, the programming of Ghanaians growing up gives us so much entitlement.
Thank you, Gideon.
Thank you,
Nicken,
Gideon,
if you
for your
could
submission. Let me go through the chat. Okay, so from Gideon, okay, he already stated that. He said the environment we are born into has an impact on our lives. Truth is, we are still not opportune to a lot of things just because we live in Africa. Example, credit systems. Okay, I think that was before the video. We have a submission from EY. It still comes down to system. What maintenance system was put in place after the project? We need to learn to build systems too. But where are the resources? People can't afford basic needs. Both leaders and citizens have a role to play. It goes hand in hand. From Zenas, I think a lot of Africans wait till issues get to a breaking point before they speak up. We have a high tolerance level as compared to the West. From Nicole, I think one reason we are reluctant is because the basic necessities of life have become a luxury. So people now become selfish and try to take responsibility for themselves, and they neglect that of others and the society. Okay. I think this conversation is really systemic. Yes, from Dixon. I think that is the whole theme of this meeting so far. Building systems. Okay, I think, Beryl, you can go on.
All right. Thank you all for your submissions. So like Dixon said, the conversation is systemic. A lot of us expect that once the systems are in place, things will go right. But the question is, who is going to build the systems? Are we waiting for the systems to be built? Are we waiting for the laws to be made? Or can we start on our own? Are we waiting for the president to do something? Are we waiting for John Mahama to say this before we do that? If he doesn't say it, is the country going to continue in the way it is? Or we think we have to develop from the start? And like I said, I'll keep hinting on the fact that 60% of Africans are the youth, meaning very soon the older generation would pass. The older generation will pass. And like Gideon has constantly said, Ghanaians have been programmed to have a mindset where we rely on people, where we complain about stuff, where we blame people for certain things. If this older generation fades, are we going to sit and wait for systems to magically come into play? It starts right from us. We can build systems on our own. We can build systems by our mindsets. We don't have to wait for systems to be implemented from top to bottom. What happens if we are the ones at the top? Who are we going to rely on to implement those systems? That's the point of the whole conversation. I think it's about time we stop complaining. It's too much. And then Africa's highest resource is their human resource. Things will fade away, gold might fade away, but the human resource are the ones who are going to keep the system running. So it's high time we move from blaming leaders, blaming history. We go back to blaming slavery, that if slavery didn't happen, if we weren't colonized, we would have had this, we would have had that. But it has happened. We go back to saying that Nkrumah did this. Nkrumah was a good president, but he wasn't able to build systems that could last. It has happened. Now, what are we going to do as Africans? We are African youth, sorry. We are the ones in charge now. We are the ones going to run in high positions very soon. We are the ones leading communities. What are we going to start ourselves as builders? What are we going to build for Africa that the generation after us can look up to us and call us good leaders? That's the whole point of today's conversation. And I think another thing is that we do not have ethical standards. When there's an easy way, we'll easily fall on that easy way. And it's not our fault. We've been trained that way. It has been brought down to us to find the easiest way possible. That's why we are not responsible for a lot of things. Because if I could sit and then watch somebody fix it, why would I want to start something when someone responsible for it could do it? I think someone has a question in the chat.
Okay, so we have a few submissions in the chat. Would we go through to the question section right now and then handle that?
Yeah, I think we can do that. We have a few minutes left.
Yeah, we have a few minutes left, so we would go straight into it. And we have from Gideon, that's why I'm saying we don't have the luxury. We don't have the luxury to rely on systems per reality. Okay, that's before. EY, remember the Julobi protest? The youth were willing to contribute their quota. And we have a question from OBJ. Please, I have a dilemma. Should we then simply give up on the central government and demanding accountability and just focus on our own initiatives? That may give us peace of mind. But will we not also be forfeiting another area of our responsibility as citizens that demands we keep our leaders accountable? I think that's the first question we have.
Okay.
Please, is there anyone? Justice, yes. Would you like to?
Yes, please. I really support OBJ's question because we cannot just say that because the systems are not working, we will not hold our leaders accountable. And one thing I've realized that the youth we are doing is that we are voicing out, not in the sense of blaming or complaining, but we are actually making a statement that something should be done about the situation. You see, in Cameroon, there was a rally going on in Cameroon. There was a rally in Tanzania. There was a rally in Togo. There was even just today, there was a coup d'etat in Guinea-Bissau. There's a lot of things going on in our space, and then the youth are watching. Kenya, like this, there was a rally also over there. So the youth, even though the system is failing us, we have not ceased, that I can say, OBJ, we have not ceased to stand up for our rights. And then we will continue to do that to make sure that however possible it may be, some people may have to be very patriotic to die for the cause. As we are seeing, that you will see that the records of people dying in the cause when they go for these rallies and all that, you hear that people are dying, but it's a good cause to stand up for your rights. However, we also have to think of how we can come out. Let me be frank. Come out of poverty. The thing is poverty. How we can come out from poverty. And then that again, as I suggested in my earlier submission, is about being an entrepreneur. And then being an entrepreneur doesn't mean that you would neglect systems. But people are thinking that when we are talking about systems, we are thinking about governmental systems alone. But rather, there are various forms of systems. There's the business system, there's the family system, There's relationship systems. There are systems that are very close to us that we can manage and build better cultures from, which would then have a ripple effect in various activities. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Justice.
Justice. I think we have a QR briefing. I'm really
All right, let's hear from Esquire.
yeah.
Hello,
Come
please,
to add
am I
OB
audible?
and everything, but please. Yes, please, a
Hello.
QR. Hello.
Yes. So good evening to everyone.
Good evening.
So I joined the call quite late, but then I think from what I've heard so far, we are probably talking about the issue with Ghanaian leadership and everything, and what exactly is wrong, I suppose. So the problem is there are a myriad of problems, and I think we need to tackle it from so many branches. But I think I'll just tackle um, the historical bit, and then I'll tackle that on personal character. So the historical bit, we need to understand that Ghana, as we know it, has not always been so. Before there was Ghana, there was Gold Coast. And before there was Gold Coast, there was the Ghana Empire. And we will realize that this Ghana Empire was very prosperous. They had a system of governance. They had systems that worked for them. They had economic prosperity and all that. And so I really do think that in order for us to progress as a country, to have that mentality of moving forward, we should just go back to the past and pick up certain traits that these occupants of Ghana Empire had, and then use them in our context to develop our country. So, for example, when you read this book, From Third World to Fifth by Lee Kuan Yew, in one of the chapters, he was talking about how Japan had undergone a very great transformation in a few years. And the reason was that they picked up some of their traditional values that they had learned from their grandfathers and their parents and all that. So something like the concept of lifelong learning, that if you are supposed to rise up to the top of a ladder in an organization, you need to start from the bottom, that you need to start from an entry level and move up. You don't just move up to executive director just because a government is in power or anything. So they believed in the concept of lifelong learning and in the concept of doing things well. There was actually a point where someone had made a very huge mistake, and the guy almost killed himself because he felt like he was being a liability to the company. So they had that mentality. They also had the mentality, still talking on Japan, they had a mentality that they were actually the best country in the whole world, and there was none like them. So these are the values that we should pick up as a country. There should be an overwhelming sense of patriotism, that there is really no country like Ghana, and that we are literally the best people on the planet. Like how the Americans are always talking about the American dream, and they literally believe they are the best, and it reflects in everything they do. So these are the values we have to pick up, the values that we learned or the values that were used by people of past. I don't know how we are going to do that, but I believe we have archaeologists and we have historians to tell us about the lifestyle of our ancestors and then apply it to our lives. And then with the character bit, I really do think that everything charity actually begins at home. How do we behave when we are growing up? What are the values that we are instilling in our children? Is it honesty? How, as a parent, we'll be parents someday. How do we behave, and what are the things, the good traits that our children can take? And that is why when you go into public service, you realize that people come to work late. People do a lot of things, and you think they learned it there. No, they probably learned it when they were young. Learning how to stand up for the truth. They learned it when they were young, their parents. So I think there should be a massive socialization of children, so that when they grow up with these traits. And I feel like when the character is developed, then the nation is developed as a whole. So these are just the two branches I want to talk on: the facts of history and the fact of personal character. They're actually more than that. But I feel like if we cover these grounds, then we are probably 50%, 50% done with regards to Ghanaian development. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much, Esquire.
Thank you, Ekia Brefo, for
All
that
right.
submission. I think we have a few in the chat from Gideon. I think he was answering EY. He said, when God wanted to send Moses and met him on the mountain through the burning bush, Moses said, what do I have? What would you use to free your people? And God had an important question. What is in your hand? So don't think too much about resources. What is in your hand? Start with that. I think that's a brilliant submission. We should start with what we have. What is in your hand? And that's to answer EY's question.
Okay. So thank you all for your submissions. Like has been said by Ikea Brefo, we need to start from somewhere.
Yeah.
And
We also
that doesn't dispute the fact that we shouldn't hold our leaders accountable. But it's like now the focus is so much on accountability of the leaders. What are the leaders going to do? What part are we also playing as citizens? What part are we also playing as Africans? We should get our mindset right. We should get our thinking right. That's the only way that we could live better lives in the country. I think OBJ has a submission.
Yeah, but before that, we have a few submissions. From Nicole, no system lasts forever. That's why we need to evolve to meet the current needs. And from Nana Kwabna, he was asking, are you willing to die too? I think it's in relation to another submission. Nana Kwabna, can you clarify? Okay, so
Yes, someone was given a submission and said there are some of the protests that will cost our lives and all. So I was wondering if he's willing, honestly.
to die. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. So yes, whoever that was, are you willing to die for what you believe in? Okay, we have a submission from OBJ.
Hi again, everyone. Thank you. I have actually learned a lot on this call. I just wanted to say that I have noticed that in our generation, the word influence almost always is equated to numbers, but that does not have to be, because we live in a social media and content creation generation where if they say this person is an influencer, they're thinking they have like 10K, 100K, a million views on their socials. But the reality, as we are all here aware, is that someone may have tens of thousands of viewers on social media, but in person, they may not really be influencing people for anything substantial. However, as people on this call, regardless of our numbers, because of what we know now, even if you didn't know anything, or if you are learning like some new things like I am, the fact that you have learned something and we can talk to one more person about this, we can start some conversations in our workplaces, our schools, our roommates, like just bring the topic. You are not trying to lecture anyone necessarily, just bring it up, see what they really think, and then guide these conversations. I believe that by doing this, here and there and planting seeds, which in increments where that's what he was trying to do, just plant ideas around, we would be able to, I mean, we may not see the full extent of our influence, but if each one takes one and we do it and we trust God who is on our side and wants us to do well, I think in some time to come, we would be marveled that what we thought was hopeless and that was beyond repair is actually starting to make progress, right? Like the old Ghana Empire, Lawyer Kia referenced, it's lasted for approximately 800 years of like prosperity and wealth and influence, and hey, we are under 70, right, guys? Yeah, yeah, we'll be 70 in 2 years. And I'm not saying it would have to take us 800 years to be there, but we need to be patient, but we also need to have a sense of urgency. And that's what personally I'm taking away from this call, that I do not have the luxury of someone born in America to just rely on the system, but I also understand that God puts me here, has given me everything I need to influence one person at a time, to learn myself one day at a time, and to partake in conversations like this. So, yeah, thank you all for helping me know more and for also sharing in this shared responsibility. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you, OBJ. I think we have all learned a lot. Dixon said, I've learned to practice systematic Sankofa. Yes. So I think we have all learned a lot this evening. And as this session is coming to a close.
Okay, so let me say a few words before we wrap up. So as we wrap up, I want us to take note of the following. Just a reminder that 60% of Africans are youth. If you are one of the African youth, what influence can you have on the generation to come? What influence can you have on the current situation of Africa? Are you just going to sit idle and watch, or you are going to try and build something? In building, are you going to change your mindset about Africa? Are you going to change about your mindset about giving excuses? Are you going to talk to people about the change we want to see? Are you going to get something started, or you're just going to sit and watch? If you sit and watch, will the generation after you consider you a good leader? Because you are definitely the future of Africa. So if Africa depends on just you, what is the story of Africa going to be? If Africa depends on just us on the call right now, what's the story of Africa going to be? Is it the same? Is it going to be the same as it already is? Or we are going to transform Africa into a better situation? If we are going to do that, then let's start building now. Let's start from the scratch. It doesn't have to be a position. Leadership isn't positional, it's situational. Let's take up small leadership skills. Just anything in the smallest possible way. It could be an interaction with someone. It could be an interaction with someone who dumped rubbish on the floor. It could be someone who decided to pay bribe. It could be anything. Let's just start small, because Africa can be better, but it depends on us, the 60% of us Africans, to make it better. Thank you. I think that brings us to the end of our discussion. It's quite unfortunate that we have to end this soon. I would have loved to hear more insights from all of you, but I think we can do this again, one
Yes, I
time
think we can
again.
do this again. But before that, I've put in a link in the chat. You can join. We have a group chat. If we are organizing this again, you'll be able to join. We'll post any update. We can continue the discussion in there, which will be very interesting to see how that goes. I think OBJ's hand is still up. I don't know if...
Oh, sorry. It's just exercise. Let me
No
take it
problem. Okay. So,
Okay, before we end, this program was sponsored by Temple Advisory in collaboration with the Central Leadership Program, of which we are fellows. CLP, for those who weren't in the beginning of the session, CLP, the Central Leadership Program, is a one-year program of the International Central Gospel Church, but it's open to all denominations. The aim of CLP is to raise Christ-centered leaders who influence change in the society. Applications are open for the next cohort. So if you want to be part of the Central Leadership Program to ensure that you're empowered to bring change in Africa, then you should apply. So yeah, that's the link. Apply. Don't tell us we didn't tell you. apply for the Central Leadership Program before it's too late. Yeah. Thank you. Nekin, over to you.
Yes. So as she said, apply. If you want to hear more conversations around this and get to meet people, like-minded people, I think the Central Leadership Program is the best place to be. And so as we wrap up, I'd like to call on fellow Bell to give us a vote of thanks before we end.
All right. So thank you all so much for joining. Special thanks to Baba God, because he made this possible. Without God, we wouldn't have so much wisdom. We wouldn't even have the chance to discuss stuff like this. I'm really grateful to God for giving us life to see this day. Special thank you to the Central Leadership Program, our program manager, our faculty members, all fellows, and the beacons of excellence of the Central Leadership Program. Thank you for your wisdom. Thank you for your impact. Thank you for the constant influence you make on us as fellows. God richly bless you. And to everyone who supported this in the smallest possible way, posting our flyers, talking to people about the Leadership in Africa Forum. God richly bless you. I can't stress that enough. And to you all for being here today, thank you for making this session impactful. Thank you that we could learn from you. And thank you for making this discussion very interesting. I'm really hoping we could do this again. So till we meet again, thank you so much. God bless you.
I think before we end, I would be posting a link in the chat for feedback on how this session went. Please kindly do well to click and share and send us your feedback. How did this session go? What you would like to hear in the next session, so you can expect that. Yes. And also kindly join the group for updates. I cannot stress this enough. It's very important. Kindly join if you are interested in having such conversations, because we would. Okay, let me reshare the group link. Okay, so it's in the chat, so you can quickly join before we end the session. As Beryl said, thank you. It was an amazing session. I'm sure you enjoyed it and learned a lot as much as I did. And as we started with God, I'd like to end with a closing prayer. Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for today. We thank you for such an amazing session. And a lot of insight, light was shared, and people gain understanding even as we spoke, and even as people shared their thoughts. We ask that even as we would organize another session like this, we pray that it would also do same. In the name of Jesus, we pray thanksgiving. Amen.
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 Thank you all for joining.
Okay.
It was a nice
Thank you all,
session.
and have a lovely evening.
God bless you. Bye.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.